Kobo has done it first. 7-inch Kaleido 3 Color on a Kobo. This is uncharted territory to say the least for any one of the big three, beating out those of rivals Barnes & Noble and Amazon. This is the Kobo Libra Colour. And as we said in a previous video, Kobo is a Canadian company, therefore spells the color with a U. This unit is here to play. An increased battery life has been implemented to handle stylus support, using the Kobo stylus found on the Ellipsa and the Sage. Not only that, there's a ton of outside perks to this. It's waterproof, it's made with recycled materials, it has physical page turn buttons, and Kobo has teamed up with iFixit to launch the right to repair, which means things like the screen, the battery, and even the circuit board are replaceable, essentially ending planned obsolescence, harking back to a time when you could actually fix your units instead of just buying a new one. More on this in a future video. But for now, let's level up the excitement and get into the Kobo Libra Colour. So let's take a look at the build first. It is an asymmetrical design or asymmetrical design, depending on the way you hold it. It does have a gyroscope so you can alter the orientation as you see fit, landscape, portrait. The design is pretty safe. There's not too much going here. It is pretty straightforward. It's just a black on black with a little bit of kind of lily pad flower petal indentations on the back. It gives you that perforated look, although it is plastic. The plastic is very thin as well. It's kind of hollow as you tap it, and you have a recessed power button on the back there with a Rakuten logo right there. You also have a USB-C, and that's the only thing you get right there. And yes, this is IPX8 certified, so it is waterproof. The physical page turn buttons don't actually navigate anything on the operating system or the UI. It is strictly when you go to look at the content itself. But let's look at the overall UI. Now, we do have the brightness on 0, and we always like to have the brightness on around 10%. We've been doing that since the iReader. You guys have always asked us, why do we have the brightness on? It's kind of critical for Kaleido, either 1, 2, or 3, to take the edge off a little bit, because Kaleido is typically fairly dark, all things considered. Now, Kobo has done something very interesting, and they put the color array filter at the top of the stack of the screen. The screen has many components: the digitizer layer, the touch layer, the glow light layer, etc. They actually moved up the color array filter. Not only that, it is not a flush screen and bezel, it is a sunken screen. So with those two things, small changes, they actually did give you a big effect in that it is much easier to see than other devices, and we'll be comparing it to other devices later. You have all your books in the middle here, you have My Books, you have things that you've added from different sources like Pocket, Dropbox, etc. We'll explain all that. You have My Books here. These are the books that you have either downloaded or things you have downloaded. You can see even pictures count as books. You have My Notebooks. It has stylus support. We'll show you that in a bit. You have Discover, which gives you access to Kobo's own bookstore, and then you get books, you get editorials, you get newspapers, you even get manga and stuff like that, so you can go into the bookstore like that. It's going to be region specific as well, so you'll see we're in Japan here conducting our review, so everything's going to be in yen and everything will be in Japanese, but this does not affect the actual unit itself. You can choose any language you want. In the settings, you'll notice a bunch of things here: Dropbox, Google Drive, My Articles, etc. This is one of the first times, especially any of the big three, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, that have any sort of Google integration to any degree. No, this doesn't have Google Play. No, you can't access APK files and stuff like that, but you do have access to Google Drive, and we'll show you Pocket and Dropbox in a little bit. You also have settings here. You can go to accounts and sign into all of your accounts, including Pocket, Google, Dropbox, etc. You have reading settings as well we want to show you. So you have different ways to change the header, the footer, and you can invert the forward and back. You also have reduce rainbow effect, which actually may slow performance or blur images, but it allows you to wipe away a lot of the inconsistencies of color. You also have dark mode, which is system wide, and you have reading settings where you can pinch to adjust the font size. You can toggle that on or off. And if you go back, you also get beta features. Beta features gives you things like web browser, large print mode, and My Words. We've covered these a ton of times, and we're not sure why they're still considered beta features, despite the fact that they've been beta for quite some time. Up at the top, you have the glow light, which we showed you. You have natural light, and you can set it via your bedtime. And if you go to learn more, you'll see what natural light does, why blue is good, why blue is bad, and the curve that you should have sunlight versus candlelight, and it'll adjust it automatically. You have Wi-Fi there as well. You have battery, and you have sync. Sync is not only just for syncing your content. It is also for putting in things like your Dropbox, your Pocket articles, and it actually searches for everything else like updates, etc. So there's more than meets the eye with the sync, and this is a kind of quick go-to. You're going to be visiting that a lot. Pocket is a system where you can actually use your phone, your tablet, your PC, log into your Pocket account, and as you save things, they actually get sent over and synced to your other units, including this Kobo Rakuten. So you'll see things we've just clicked on, for examples, these articles, they actually get sent over to your device. It'll say articles from Pocket. So anything you do on your smartphone, when you save these articles and you sync your unit via the sync at top, it's actually pulling from there via your Pocket account. Of course, you have to be logged into Pocket on both devices for this to work. Google Drive is much the same, so this will be synchronized to your Google account, and you can see that some of these are downloaded, some of these are not downloaded. You can also download all, cancel all downloads, or refresh. The beauty about this is that when you download things, it is pulling from your Google Drive. So on your device, again, you can use your Drive app, you can use your PC, you can use whatever you want. All you would do is just load them in there, and now you have access to your photos, you have access to your PDFs, you can put PDFs and books and anything you want. You see we have JPEGs and multiple formats, so as long as this is a format that this unit can read, you can transfer it via Google Drive. This is all pretty straightforward stuff. Same with my Dropbox. All you would do is, again, log into Dropbox on here, log into Dropbox on your PC, and now you can start utilizing this Dropbox content directly on here. All you would do is drag anything that you want to share from Dropbox into the Rakuten Kobo folder, and you now have access to share everything. As long as you're logged into both at the same time, there should be no problems. In terms of the note-taking experience, there is something very important you should note, and that is that it doesn't work with the Kobo Rakuten Gen 1 pen. We swapped the batteries, we used 3 different pens, and it does not work. So what are we to do? Well, Rakuten was nice enough to send us one. Thank you, Rakuten. Just so you guys are super clear, this is the Gen 1 pen that will not work on this unit. This is the one for the Sage and the Ellipsa. Came with a quadruple A battery. You cannot charge it, you simply replace the battery. There's no eraser at the back. This is the Gen 2 pen. Has a USB-C, has a button on the side, and an eraser at the back. This one works on the unit. Books, books, books. This is an ebook reader first, foremost, and pretty much only. It's not really billing itself as a note-taking super giant, but it does have note-taking all the same. We'll look at that in a second. The biggest draw is the color highlights. This is really nice stuff. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't have a Carta 1300 screen like the black and white Clara, but it is still pretty clear, all things considered, even though it's not technically the latest generation of e-paper technology. When you long press something, you get a drop down, different languages, to and froms, you get a dictionary definition, you can highlight, add note, and search in Book, Wikipedia, or Google. Of course, a huge draw is the physical page turn buttons. You can long press and it speeds everything through, and funnily enough, this is really one of the only times device-wide you can actually trigger a refresh mode / A2 mode. You see how everything blurs and dithers itself and then speeds on through with a great deal of staining in the background. This is basically speed mode. However, it is not user controllable to the point where you can toggle it on or off. It is simply just when you're doing page turns. But you know, it is lightning quick, and even though this is a color screen, it really doesn't affect the overall contrast. And yes, this is a color screen. If you're skipping through, you'll see that we can make color highlights, but even though we can do that, even if we get something that is a super white background, you'll see that it is a fair contrast between the blacks and the whites. So I would say it is an overall mix and a best of both worlds. You can zoom out pretty drastically and you can zoom in pretty drastically at the same point. You can go over here and change a bunch of things in the settings menu: line spacing, margins, font size, and if you want a before and after, you can actually go like this and you can choose whatever you'd like it to look like before and after. If it gets too complicated, you know what, just X out of that and leave the standard version open instead of the advanced version. With the Kobo Stylus Gen 2, you can write directly on the page, and much like a Sony DPT, you can actually highlight. That is a very cool thing you can do by pressing the secondary button, and if you tap the highlight, you can actually change the color, and that's how you're able to change the color. It's not set into the pen, it'll just be default, whatever it's defaulted to. And yes, you can go like this, you can box things, circle, star. It's not going to do any sort of conforming, it is going to be the exact way you write it. But honestly, it's very nice how you can write directly on the page. It's a very high quality experience that they really don't limit you in that regard. If you lose track of what you wrote, you simply click the middle, go down to the bottom right here where you have table of contents and annotations, and you'll see everything you have done. Scribbles on this page, scribbles on that page, and however many highlights you did, and it's literally going to be throughout the entire thing. And they give you a little thumbnail of what you drew, when you drew it, and you can tap it and it takes you directly to where you made that note. If you check out where you are, for example, 45 of 914, make sure you note that, go back out of it, go back into the same book, and you'll see that your notes are still on the page. This can all be deleted, of course, with the back of the pen, and away it goes. Now, if you're thinking you can draw on Manga to practice your anime skills, unfortunately, you cannot. It doesn't do anything. It just acts as a page turn, and the first time you do it, it's going to pretty much tell you that you're not able to do so. With Manga, you get a very nice experience. It's just about the same size as Manga in Japan at least, and it's very handheld but large at the same time. You can use your fingers to tap, you can swipe, and you can use the physical page turn buttons, and of course you can pinch and zoom. Now again, you get that kind of blurry off-on light switch of Kobo where they let it go and it's like that. They don't give you step-by-step scaling refresh because they need the color to work at any given time. For example, if we're on the very front screen here, say you went into Walmart or Chapters or wherever and you bought one of these and you took it home and they gave you the ability to change the contrast, the vividness, all that other stuff. There might be a lot of people that aren't too inclined or knowledgeable on how to change those settings. So they basically just let you read it like this and that's it. They don't allow you to change any of the settings. So when you do finally let go, it refreshes and that's it. Even though you're not able to really change any of the settings. There's some things you can do. You can go over here to the brightness. You can do full blast like so, in which case it kind of starts looking like an LCD tablet. And then if you can go over here to natural light, you can go to make it a little bit more candlelight, or of course you can go right in the middle like so. Now because this is a book, even though it is a children's book and it has imagery on it, you can actually mark this up with the stylus, which is really cool. So it gives you that ability to do so even on certain color content. Even though it's only a 7-inch, the PDF experience is pretty good. It's fast, it's really crisp, and it refreshes very properly. And what I mean is there's never going to be any mishaps. With a lot of other manufacturers that can take more risks, there just seems to be a lot more left on the table with ghosting and staining, but Kobo makes it a point that every time you refresh, just like we said on the color content, it just goes directly to the state that is final, and it gets there so quickly to the point where you can now mark it up like so. You can use the eraser, or you can even pinch and zoom in to get deeper on what you want to write, and you can go like this with the stylus pen. and then it renders and it's perfect. Every time it refreshes, there's never going to be anything left over. It is an absolute final refresh, and I really like how they get there so hurriedly. With PDFs, you can tap here and get some settings. There's progress bar, the same kind of things you have in reading settings, etc. You can also tap here and get view details, dictionary, and hints and tips. And of course, you get this one where you can move it all around. This is from our Google Drive that we launched in here earlier that we showed you. This is a very good service. I really like this. You don't have to sideload anything. You can just go right from your PC or your cell phone. With the Libra Colour, you get ballpoint, fountain, calligraphy, brush, and highlighter. Before, on other devices like the Ellipse and the Sage, you get black, dark gray, lightest gray, etc. But now you get color, so it looks like this: black, red, orange, etc. These are all the colors you get on the unit. This is every single one of them. You no longer get the shades of gray. You don't really need them anymore because you can just mitigate that with the different brush strokes like paintbrush, etc. You have a very nice lasso tool. I love this one because you can copy, delete, resize, and convert. Convert is so blazingly fast. It is so quick, and it does it immediately right on the page. You can even click on that after the fact, and you can copy and delete it, etc. Your go-to is going to be this drop down at the top. You also have eraser, or you can just use the back of the pen and everything just goes away. You also have undo, redo, and you have change backgrounds, clear page, delete page, refresh page, and export. We're going to show you export in a second, but we're going to show you the backgrounds because there are 37 of them. There are a ton of backgrounds here: calligraphy, dots, Cornell wide, etc. So just the world is your oyster in that regard. If you go down here and you go to export, you can do this page or the full notebook. If you do this page, it'll go to Dropbox, Google Drive, or computer. Computer is really cool because it's just drag and drop, but I also like the integrations of multiple applications. I think that's a really cool thing that even in the note-taking experience, you get those features. There is something very interesting you can do on this unit as well. Not only do they have the basic notepad, which we just showed you, they have the advanced one, and you'll see a lot of things going on here because there are a ton of elements to this thing. Math equations, freehand drawing, highlighting, graphing. There's a lot of things going on here, and if we go to an open space, you'll see here if you write in the middle, it's not going to do anything because you need to write within these lines for it to understand what you're doing. So you would go to ballpoint pen and you would start writing inside and say, Peter is here. You can double tap it and it instantly converts it right there. From here you can long press on the things, edit, copy, delete. If you do edit, it goes into the actual editing software where you can now do highlights and then copy, delete it, etc. From here, there's so much more you can do. You see some math equations. Every time you want to add something, you would do insert drawing, insert diagram, insert math equation. So if you do insert diagram, you can do circles and triangles and squares like that, and then you would just simply double tap it and it processes it and it just cleans everything up. It highlights the lines, it grays in the overall surface area of whatever you've drawn. It's a really nice way to deliver these writing spaces to you. There's freehand drawing where you can draw anywhere within the confines of wherever you have deemed it the limits of such. Finally, you can do insert math equation. This is where you can write some pretty technical stuff. 4 times 3 divided by 1 over 2 times 4 to the power of 3 equals. And then all you do is double tap it and it gives you the answer within 1 second. Because we have dealt with eNotes for so very long, we'd like to also tell you guys about the writing experience of it all. It's not a very solid experience. It's fairly slippery. It doesn't have a whole lot of grip. It doesn't have a lot of feedback either through the pen. There's no real reverberation through the pen. It's a fairly weighty pen as well, and it does have an eraser at the back, which I do appreciate because even on the very corner you can erase what you've drawn. I'd say the eraser actually takes more of a center stage application wise than the tip of the pen itself. I don't like the tips that are really plasticky. It doesn't really do much for me. It doesn't give you a realistic writing feel. It just feels like you're writing on glass. Now, this may be subjective to some people that they say, hey, I like something that's more smooth. I personally like something that's more realistic. They don't really give it to you here, and it is a sunken screen and bezel, so you don't want to push too hard because you do have no piece of glass at the very top like you do on some Onyx devices, some pocketbook devices, etc. Kobo Stylus support, Kaleido 3 color screen, and the right to repair gives you everything you need to use this unit long term. However, they don't give you the pen in the box like some of their other units. Overall, the device is a tad limiting, and it would have been more fitting to make the Sage color instead of turning the Libra into an E note. In the end, you can't argue that this is accelerating Kobo into a new dimension and pressuring the other members of the big three to follow suit, as neither Amazon or Barnes & Noble have made any strides in the world of color, despite the fact that the technology has been around since 2009.